Hey guys, I just wanted to hop on here really quick and give you a little introduction. This video is my first collaboration and podcast with my good friend Christian Ramirez and his lovely partner Josie. You can find him on YouTube. His channel is called Transcendence. You can also find him on TikTok and Instagram at Transcendent Vibe. I will make sure to put that information in the description box, so it's very easy for you to get up with him if you would like. He answers questions. He's a very old, wise soul, giving out really important information for these times. So yeah, make sure you check that out. Like, share to support the movement. We're on a mission to spread awareness and shed some light on certain topics that as a collective we are all experiencing on some level. There's much we do not know, but it is important to remember that in all the chaos, there is the will of God and divine order. We are living in one hell of a time, and we should be excited, not fearful. After all, our souls did choose to be here at this time, okay? So things are changing, we are evolving, we are ascending at a very rapid pace. We are expanding our consciousness, upgrading our DNA, as well as opening and activating our own unique spiritual gifts. Like I always say, always follow your own intuition. Just because we are sharing specific information does not mean that you have to accept it as your truth. You have the free will to deny what is shared. I only ask that you keep an open mind and an open heart. We can all agree that the truth is definitely being kept from us, and that there is no doubt some sort of hidden agenda. Even with the information that they are sharing with us, we must unite as a people and stand firm in the knowing that light always wins and nothing is as it seems. So sit back, relax, get you some tea, get you some snacks, get you some coffee, and enjoy the podcast.
Do you believe our government has made contact with intelligent extraterrestrials?
Something I can't discuss in public setting.
Okay, I can't ask when you think this occurred. If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. I'm here with my girlfriend Josie here and my spirit medium friend Amanda. Hey Amanda, how's it going?
Hi, good to be here, guys. We've been talking about doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
So I was hoping you could introduce yourself, tell us your background and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a intuitive tarot reader. I have my own YouTube channel where I do a lot of pick cards, readings based off your zodiac on Fine Feminine Awareness is where you can find me. I am also a spirit medium and a soul realignment practitioner. I'm certified in that and also Reiki. I do a lot of things. I've been doing it for the past 4 years. I'm a student and teacher of life, very open to learning more and having beautiful experiences with beautiful people.
Awesome. And today we're going to talk about a lot of things, maybe some of our experiences and extraterrestrials, which is a really big topic. And it's kind of in the mainstream now at the media. They're starting to cover it. More News Nation than I'm seeing like everywhere else, but I'm starting to see trickles of like Fox News and stuff like that. And we have a hearing coming up this Wednesday, which is not the first hearing in history, but this is the first hearing with the type of allegations that they're saying that essentially there are people behind the scenes keeping stuff from us. But we can, I guess, start with Dr. Stephen Greer, because he's been out for years talking about this stuff, and finally what he's been disclosing is coming to light now. So what are your thoughts on Dr. Stephen Greer? I believe him, and I believe his witnesses.
Oh yeah, he's the man. He's doing great things. He's standing in his purpose. You can just feel an energy and aura about him that he's sincere and he's being protected. I feel like I truly believe he's being guided and led by the extraterrestrials, the positive polarity extraterrestrials, that is, because there are both. As most viewers watching this, they probably are aware already of the reptilians, the negative polarity extraterrestrials, and then the positive. So I love what he's doing. I support it 100%. I absolutely believe it. My fiance is not so much of a believer. He's very skeptical, and that's okay because
Yeah.
it's healthy to be skeptical. You know, we
You
don't
need
never know
different
for sure.
perspectives.
Yeah. And he's been following his stuff on someone else's podcast. It's like this ex-military guy who he's been following for a long time, and he has Dr. Stephen Greer on that podcast. So that's
Ryan
how he's
Sean.
been.
Oh, Sean Ryan.
Yeah,
Excuse
so
me.
it's spreading
Yeah.
like wildfire, and it's so exciting. We've been waiting, like on a soul level, I feel like we've all been waiting for this information to come out, like mainstream come out, not undercover or whatever, just like full blown, you just evidence, facts, and we're excited. So it's like it makes you nervous and it gives you anxiety, but it's like you're happy and like I don't know, so many emotions all at once when you think about like this is the real deal.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, that it's finally happening. And it's funny because there are still people denying it even now. And what I find interesting is that some of the people, even in the media, they're like, well, why now? Why is this happening now? Or why is this all of a sudden this news thing? And it's just like, I laugh and I talk to my friends and I'm like, this is not new. They've been talking about this for years, trying to get it into the mainstream media and nobody would cover it. And Dr. Stephen Greer's mock hearing that happened in 2013. Ruben Langdon was the one who had produced and filmed the event. And they had over 40 researchers and scientists, some from our country, some from other countries, all coming to just share what they knew and what they had. It's not just an American thing. I keep seeing people say, oh, it's only happening in the US. And just to, that's not true. And also, when was the last time you saw any like news from Russia or Australia? You don't, because we're geo-locked for the better part. You can go looking for the news and you might find clips of things here and there, but we don't have foreign news in this country. So you're not going to see what they're talking about. And, we have David Grush coming out and he's saying that this is not just an American thing. It's a like nationwide thing across the world. Everyone's coming out with this information, and anyone who kind of just does a little bit of history and looking back at some of these people saying this stuff, they've been saying it for a while.
Shoot, nowadays all you need is TikTok and YouTube.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
see all the activity.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. It's all over the entire world right now. It's on an all-time high. So, and that's the reason why they wanted to get rid of TikTok in the first place, is because information was getting out that's not being censored, and people are waking up due to TikTok. So it's like TikTok has its pros and its cons. It's not the best thing for our young children, but for awakening people to the truth, it is A1 for that. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
kind of
exactly.
Like
Anybody with a phone and an internet connection, if something's happening around them, all they have to do is get out there and show everyone. And I'll see people say, oh, the news isn't covering this or that. And then you have somebody out there on live and they're like, well, hey, look, this is happening right now. I mean, you can see some of the things that are happening in France from TikTok that our news is not covering. And
whatsoever.
Yeah, it's going crazy over there. They're releasing animals at the zoo, and lots of stuff they're not going to show us on the news because they're selective, and by now everyone knows that.
Well, they don't want us to have our own revolution.
That's true.
No.
Yeah, that would be bad if we did that here. Because there's only but so many of them. They're outnumbered, and people just if we just stood together in unity and peacefully, minus the violence and the anger and all that stuff, things could really get accomplished. There's other countries where they, their leader, stepped down because they came together as people. So it's possible. Whether it will happen here or not, we never know. But I believe that all things happen for a reason, and not all reptilians are bad, and also not all reasons why extraterrestrials not being exposed to us in the past would be a bad thing, because I feel like maybe if they exposed it too soon, before people were ready, or majority of people were ready, it would cause more chaos than it would, help. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, because back then we didn't really.
Timing has a huge role in this. Yeah. And you see, It's meant to happen whenever it happens. I felt if it happened in the past, it would probably be too soon and the outcome might not be positive. It might be more harmful to us as a collective, as a whole, instead of actually being something beautiful and amazing and positive like it's supposed to be.
Yeah. And
Or
I
maybe we
also,
had lessons to learn that maybe we wouldn't have learned had we had more of this knowledge and technology before now.
right. Hmm.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
And also, I wanted to say, because this is not really, I don't see a lot of people bringing it up, and they're talking about the hearing or like, oh, this is like, not good enough for the witnesses that are speaking we already heard from, which, yeah, I mean, it disappointed me a little too because I wanted to see some of the extra people. But what is exciting for me about this hearing is that you have Congressman Tim Burchett saying that the Pentagon was already reaching out to their witnesses, telling them not to testify. Now, why is that important? That's important because, one, they shouldn't be doing that because Congress is asking for the information. And now we have this, the Pentagon and the powers that be, Navy, Air Force, whoever, like running the show saying, no, you're not going to do this. But Congress is like, excuse me. And what's exciting to me about that is that now Congress, whether they were kept in the dark for a while or whatever the story was, now they're starting to realize that technically they never really ran the show. And it's starting to come to light that, like, if you're not answering to us, then what's going on here? And what does that say about our democracy, which I don't think we've had for a very long time. But that's what's important, because once they see that, okay, we're getting doors, closed in our faces, and this shouldn't be happening, this is unconstitutional, that's going to lead down the road or snowball, down a hill, essentially get to the point where, what do we got to do to kind of, I don't know, overthrow the government or like,
Put the pressure on them.
Yeah, because it's like,
That's what's needed.
we're going to get to this point where we're going to have to fight for our power back. And revolutions are never, they don't always happen overnight. And at the same time, it's always a push. You have to push. The people have to push for it. And if we don't, then nothing's going to change. But that's what's happening finally. So you're starting to see that. And I don't think this is the first and last hearing that this is going to happen. I think it's going to open up further hearings, and more people are getting upset and they want information, especially getting upset in positions of power where they're like, congressmen, congresswomen, and whoever else. And like Greer says, like some of the powers that are within some of these projects and want this out. And, he mentioned like a timeline that they're like, we either try to do this correctly or we're going to force it out. So
Yeah.
I'm like curious. I'm like wondering if that's going to happen. I feel like it might be down to the wire, or that might happen.
It's going to happen. Let me tell you why. Because the people, the shadow government is kind of what I'll refer to them as, the elites, small, 1% of individuals that are, leading the world, the country, whatever you want to call it. They know that these extraterrestrial beings exist, and they know that they're more powerful than them. So all they're doing is buying time, and they're gonna. When you push someone into a corner and they fight, they're just gonna fight until they die or whatever,
Right.
so absolutely, I feel like it could get violent, but at what point do you think that these extraterrestrials will actually step in to control the situation? Because we all know, people who are keeping track with these extraterrestrials, we know there is lots of, you can call it a conspiracy theory, but to me it's truth. They have been known to stop nuclear weapons, like
Right.
they're allowed to go off. So they have technology, they have these abilities, and like a blink of an eye, a push of a finger, whatever,
They step in when necessary.
I gave a genie, little wink, whatever. Like they can do it just like that,
I love
anything
that
that they
show.
want, So it's like, and the elites, the shadow government, they know this. So it's like, to me, it's like they're nuts. It's like, what are you guys doing? You're going to lose. So it's just a matter of time. That's it. Just a matter of time.
Right. And the thing about the nukes, it's happened more than once. And I believe it's happened more than what they're sharing. But at that 2013 mock hearing, they also had two captains from 1969 talking about, I think it was Maelstrom Air Force Base, where they were discussing that these craft would fly not once, not twice, but many times, like shutting down their missiles and stuff, never hurting anybody. It was kind of like a message. I think that there has been some kind of time limit put on this, and they're like, hey, you have this time to get your affairs in order and tell them yourselves, or we're going to start doing it ourselves. And I don't think they're going to do it forcefully, because they're, I think they're socially evolved, so they know the consequences of doing something like that. And one of the things I wanted to share really quickly is that I got into this stuff. I always believed, but I got into this stuff more after researching into near-death experiences and hypnotherapy. And people were sharing things from their near-death experiences and hypnotherapy sessions, past life regression sessions, that, we're definitely not alone, that, we're eternal beings having a physical experience. These beings know this. We're starting to come into that awareness about that now. That's being shared everywhere. And you have people sharing their near-death experiences, people sharing their hypnotherapy sessions. And it's like coming out, and people are starting to change perspectives. And as that knowledge comes to, fruition, these beings are like slowly starting to step in more. You're starting to see them more now. And I think that's like the beginning to disclosure. It's like, now we'll allow you to see us a little bit. It's like kind of a slow process. I know a lot of people want it to be rushed, but it is a process, because there are consequences to just revealing yourself. There are some people that aren't ready. I get that. Some people are still holding on to certain dogmas that say it isn't so. But I think that's what's actually going to happen eventually. And there's that weird time frame around like 2026, 2027. I don't know what's going to happen around then, but a lot of channelers, Dr. Greer even said something. You have an abductee saying something. And apparently there was another abductee by John Ramirez, who actually works for the CIA, who was asked about that time frame, and he mentioned something about that time frame as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, I got the information as well from my own personal spirit guides around anywhere from 2025 to 2028. So it was close, and also it's been an inside job. These extraterrestrials, they are part of us. We are part of them. There's a lot of souls on Earth right now that didn't originate from planet Earth. I do that in my work with with soul alignment, excuse me. And we know this. It's an inner knowing that we have. And we came to Earth on this mission with a purpose, and is to help humans evolve and ascend. So it's an inside job, because you can't do so much. You can't forcefully do things on the outside. So they got smart, and they're like, okay, so this is what we'll do. We'll have people have mystical experiences, have past life regressions, and remember, have dreams about us, and take them to our ships and stuff like that. So it's like it's an inside job. It's been happening to people.
Right.
On a individual level and a collective level, because the ETs are working with certain people. A lot of people have connections to them, and there's so many different races. You have the Syrians, you have the Pleiadians, Andromedons. And that's just a few. There's so many of them, and that's what a lot of people can't get past, is how many different humanoid species, has the Creator created, and it's like an infinite amount. Like you see, just the animals,
look at the universe
on Earth, like that's just Earth. Like science has already said, there's plenty of other planets that have water and life on them. And then there's other beings that don't have physical bodies. They don't need a planet like Earth to thrive and be in. It's just, and then those are dimensions, and it's just a bunch of crazy stuff. But yeah, it's been happening. It started a long time ago, and it's been slowly but surely happening to where now it's happening more and more. More and more, more and more. And you're absolutely right. Gradually, but definitely happening slowly but surely. And I'm hoping that I told my family not too long ago that we're going to experience full disclosure in this lifetime. And none of them believe me, but I'm like, okay, I bet like my fiance has like $25,000. I'm gonna need that. On it. So better give me my money. But yeah, it's like, and it's not a scary thing. It's like, it's what we need. It's like what this world needs. It's just, I don't know. It's like being like a little kid in a candy store. Imagining that experience, and so it's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see why it's unreal. It's just like, it's crazy. It's like it's a fantasy or something from a fairy tale, and.
Right.
But life is magical, and a lot of people can't see life in that light, So because we've been programmed We've been conditioned to not believe that things like that are possible or real. And that's kind of what we have to get past as a collective. And that's what I teach my kids. And I'm like, look, they know about draconians. They know about reptilians. They know about all that stuff. My 9-year-old will tell you that we live in a simulation. We use Dr. Greer's app. What is it? Contact 8, or what is it called? The app that he has?
CE5.
Yeah, we go outside at night and we do the extraterrestrial thing and we find them. We got the telescope. We got the binoculars. We successfully see them when we
I need
go
a telescope.
out. Yeah. So, I mean, it's amazing. It's just like sometimes it makes you speechless trying to think, because they're already here.
Yeah,
you know, it's like they're already here, and some walk among us. So it's like, what would it look like? I think I had a dream the other night, and I can't remember exactly what it was. I think it was last night where I had a dream of a whole bunch of them coming and just being like everywhere all at once.
Mm-hmm.
But it was pretty crazy. But it felt good. It didn't feel scary. I wasn't afraid. I was excited.
Yeah, Josie originally, like when we met, she was still. Were you still afraid of like ETs, like, or getting into that stuff?
Okay, look. All right, we've all
talking
seen
about your progression.
We've all seen War of the Worlds. I used to have nightmares about that. Like aliens would be coming in that style, like show up. Hey, you're all gonna be red goo shooting out of stuff. Like, don't get caught. And there's like nowhere to hide because they'll find you. And that's terrifying. And you think of something that has these technology that's going to come out of nowhere and there's nothing you can do. That's really scary. And finding out that it's just, propaganda, in a really good movie. It was a good movie. It was a well-done movie.
Yeah, that's movies.
Right.
Programming, conditioning.
Exactly, but it's programming and conditioning. So when Chris first wanted to have a conversation about aliens, I was like, I don't even like ghost stories, and I don't want to talk about aliens. And he's like, hold on there. Wait a second. Let me tell you about what I know. Yeah, let me tell you about what I know. And listening to his
Dr.
information
Greer.
from all the research that he's done, watching documentaries with him, it all kind of aligned with, I guess, my spiritual journey I was already on. So it made sense to me. And I can't say if a being just materialized right in front of me that I wouldn't drop my pina colada and be a little scared at first, but I don't I don't think that I would be like, oh my gosh, run, hide, like it's coming to kill me. I would definitely be startled and definitely be like, oh my God, am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? But I wouldn't be as scared because I know that the majority of them are here to help and they have helped people. And not just on an individual level, but in our society, the things that we can do with free energy. And who doesn't want that?
Free energy. Yeah.
Right.
Free energy. Depression is tied in.
Yeah, who doesn't want a better way of living?
Had before they took it from us.
Yeah.
Right. I
would be afraid too, girl. If one I'd be like, oh,
I mean,
shit.
yeah. I get startled by everything all the time. If a being just showed up, I'd be like, "Whoa, hold on."
I talked to Ghost Girl, and if one popped up, I still get startled. I'm like,
oh my gosh.
I'm like, first of all, you look a little scary. I'm gonna need you to not do that.
Yeah, I've seen a full-on apparition, but this was before I was ready, I guess, before I got more into this.
Who's never really ready,
and I saw that, and I immediately just went into fear, and I threw the cup of water I had at the wall, at the thing, and I freaked out, because the thing is, it's just. But the cool thing is after your experience, you're like, I'm alive. Nothing bad happened to me. It's real. Now you can't deny it because some people will still have an experience and still try to rationalize and deny it if they're really not ready. But once that happens, UFO, ET, ghost, spirit, whatever, once it happens, you can't deny it anymore. And then you're gonna, switch camps. You're gonna be like, okay, this is real. And
It
you'll
goes
have
from
to.
a belief to an experience, and now you know, and nothing can ever take that from you.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you'll still see the people denying it, but now you'll see the other side of the people who've been trying to get the message out. And now you can fully comprehend. You're like, okay, yeah, there's something to this. And another thing I wanted to say really quick, and we can get into this, is that I know there's some confusion because there are some people, like even on my TikTok, that just, they're interested, but they have no idea about ETs coming from other worlds, planets, whatever. And I try to explain, but on TikTok, there's like a message limit. So you can't fully give out a full detailed explanation. So sometimes I have to tag them in a previous video or something that I put that shares some of this. But that when we get into ETs, it's not just, and Greer talks about this, you're not just talking about beings that came from one planet that you can see through a telescope to here. We're starting to go into realms of other dimensions. Some of them are multidimensional. We live in a universe with vibration and energy and frequency. Just like if something vibrates fast enough, it's invisible to you. You can't see it, smell it, touch it, sense it, unless you're sensitive to that. And that's why we have like mediums, spirit mediums and all that, and people who are more sensitive who can see auras and things like that. So technically, from my understanding, you could go to a planet that a being says he came from and there's nothing there. But if you were to raise your frequency to a higher dimension, then you would come in contact with his civilization. But that doesn't mean he isn't there. But that's where it gets confusing. You see some of this when some of the craft just materialize and dematerialize out of nowhere. Sometimes you see them just leave, but sometimes people will talk about them actually like you're just looking at them once and then bloop, and they just blip in, and then all of a sudden they're gone. But they may still be there just in higher frequency. So I wanted to get into that.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry,
No, you didn't. I just
overlap
multidimensional.
each other.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry. I'm talking over you.
No, it's okay. It's the recording too, so don't worry.
Yeah, it's lagging a little bit. My bad.
Yeah.
I thought that you were done. But no, yeah, absolutely. We're multidimensional beings, actually.
Yeah.
Humans are.
Exactly.
And, we can do psychic abilities are actually normal. Like, so the paranormal is normal and the supernatural is natural. We taught otherwise, but like everybody has spiritual gifts, psychic abilities to some degree, whether it's feeling, seeing, touching, sensing, knowing. So yeah, that makes us multidimensional. And dimensions, they exist on top of each other. So you're right, it's not just another planet, and that's why everything is kind of like distorted. Mm-hmm. It's like you just get a piece. It's fragmented, I guess you can kind of say. That's the way I can explain it. And I know that, so let's get into like your experiences with extraterrestrials, because I know that you've had, and it's amazing how different everyone's experiences are, because they can come in many forms, know, and that goes back to what you were just saying, because they're multidimensional and based off of your frequency and stuff like that. That's absolute truth for sure.
Right. I guess my first experience was, well, now I don't even know if it was my first, at least it was my first conscious experience about seeing something, but it was in dream state. So I was having a dream at first, but then, that feeling when you wake up in a dream and you're like, oh, I'm dreaming. This is a lucid dream. It was sort of like that, but it felt like I was putting in a holding place. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? It wasn't that I woke up, I'm like, oh, I'm waking up within my dream. It was like, what's happening? What's going on? And then it was kind of dark. And then out of this darkness came a woman, and her face was a little different. It's like you could tell immediately at looking at her, she's not human. Her presence was different. And you start to notice that her lips aren't moving either. She's talking to me telepathically. And her eyes, she had big oval eyes. I couldn't tell if there was, because it was dark, if it was hair or like a hood that she had on, or both. And I was like, how are you doing this? Because I just knew intuitively that it wasn't me doing this. And I asked her, and she directly responded, we have the ability to manipulate dreams. And in fact, it's easier to communicate this way. And then after that, I felt like we had conversations about all kinds of different things. But for whatever reason, the only thing I could remember was that first sentence of her telling me that they had the ability to do this, to communicate that way.
You want to know something so crazy?
What's up?
That being that you just said that, that is crazy to me. That I know that to be true when it comes to like souls and spirits, like the
Mm-hmm.
earthbound or people who have crossed over. They told me the same thing. They said it's easier for them to manifest in people's dreams. It takes less energy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's amazing that the ETs kind of do that in a same kind of in the same fashion. That's amazing to me. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, but she was very kind. She didn't scare me or anything like that. The big eyes was different, and I'll like never forget it. And I'll explain this a little later, but because of some of these experiences I had, I told you about this off camera, but I got dowsing rods and I tried them for the first time. At first, nothing happened, and I plan to put up some videos soon about this, but then I tried a couple hours later and Spirit came through and I started asking questions about ETs because who doesn't want to know, right? So I started asking them to cross the rods for yes or move them apart for no about my experiences. And they were saying yes, that those were real experiences, those were real communications, that I was taken at some point. And very recently I had feelings. I was at Josie's mom's house when this first started to have my first recollection of actually being taken. It was like I was laying in bed, and then all of a sudden, it was like that peak time when you're half asleep but still awake, sort of. And then I started to feel like I was just floating upwards, and it just felt like I was floating up. And at first, I had this immense fear of what was happening. I was like, "Oh my God, I'm being taken!" Like I started to freak out. But then I was just like, I remembered everything that I've been learning, and I just let go. I was like, "It's okay. Like you can take me." And then I felt like a weight just released. Like I just felt free, at peace. And then I felt like I was returned. I woke up, couldn't move my body, opened my eyes, and I couldn't move my body. I was like sleep paralysis. And then I thought somebody was walking back and forth in the room, and I thought that was Josie, but it wasn't. When I finally was able to get up out of bed, it wasn't her. And then a couple days later, I had the same experience, but this time in my apartment. I don't live there anymore, but I had it there. Same thing, feeling of lifting up, waking up, can't move my body. And there's some more stuff, but the last one I'll share to let you guys talk was I had a dream, again, very lucid. I woke up in a rainforest, lost and confused, and I was scared and I didn't know where I was. And the bushes started rustling and I was like, oh my God, it's a tiger, or like, what is that? Started to freak me out. But then out of the bushes came a woman, and she had long blonde hair, blue eyes, kind of looked like a young Nicole Kidman, I guess. She didn't have the big eyes like the first woman did. She had skin tight clothing, which is weird. I think she was barefoot also, but like the clothing was just kind of like a one piece, like to the neck. Yeah,
To my
bodysuit.
knowledge, that's a Pleiadian.
Yeah, that's what it said. The descriptions and appearances, that's exactly what she looked like. So I'm like, okay. And this is, again, I had that experience before I was getting more into this. This was happening before everything I was getting into too. And she said, come with me, they're coming. And I'm like, who's coming? I was confused, but for whatever reason, I trusted her completely. I just knew I could trust her. And she like put my heart at ease. And then I grabbed her hand and we ran through the forest. We went through a clearing, and then there was kind of like a beach with some like kind of palm trees there. But that's when I knew it wasn't Earth, because it looked like a completely different place. Like the sand was like how we would see sand on Earth, but then you had the ocean, you had other people or beings. I don't know. I didn't get close to them, but they were all in like meditative position, like meditating on the beach. And they're on the horizon. You could see another planet that was extremely close, and it had like a ring around it, kind of like Saturn. And then these UFOs came, these disc-shaped UFOs came and hovered above everyone meditating. And then I was sitting on the sand at this point, and she had disappeared somewhere. And I closed my eyes because I was still scared because I had no idea what was going on. And it took me And I remember being like thrown, like in the craft, thrown through the universe almost. Like I could see planets and celestial bodies and stuff. And I ended up in a weird place wherever this UFO dropped me off. I don't know if it was a dimension. I don't know if it was like a physical place or something, but it looked like, I don't know if you guys seen Harry Potter with the moving stairs. Like it was kind of like
You
that,
don't know
but
if I've seen Harry Potter with the moving stairs.
well, Amanda, I imagine Amanda, most people seen Harry Potter, but I don't want to
Yeah,
assume.
I like Harry Potter.
But yeah, like it was kind of
Okay.
like that, but no stairs. It was more like sacred geometry, just like moving, like platforms. And it was
Okay.
red and dark. And a gentleman showed up, and he said, "You're not supposed to be there yet." And then I just wake up. You're not supposed to be here yet. I wake up, and I've had other dreams, same thing, where a gentleman shows up. He's like, "You're not supposed to be here," and then I wake up.
So interesting.
Yeah,
I feel like, yeah, that's your astral body that they're kind
yeah,
of
that's what I thought too, because
playing
it's
around
not.
with there.
Yeah,
But to some degree, you got to be like, you agree to it, or else, because they're not going to do something like if you were totally against it, or if you like scare you to death. For instance, if that happened to me or Josie, we'd probably be like, oh, hell no. Like, so our experiences would probably be much different,
Yeah.
more subtle. Maybe not to say they're not real, because I feel like, obviously what I do for work, it's all real. We're all in the mind creator, and it's imagination, things like that are very real. Not necessarily logical, but real nonetheless. So that's an amazing experience. What about you, Josie? Because I'm so interested, and that's what I'm saying, people, not just you, but so many people have had experiences, personal, beautiful experiences. So it's happening within and without, you see?
Oh, not me so much. I mean, no, no. Well, as far as possible ETs, no. I mean, I thought I saw something on the 4th of July, but I was really drunk, so I don't really remember that very well. I don't know, but it seemed I remember that I remember, if that makes any sense.
Right.
Something weird, and I remember a green light when I was going to the porta potties to go to the bathroom, and all of this partying, all of this is happening over here. I remember seeing something weird, and I remember running back being like, guys, I just saw a UFO, and everybody's like, Josie's drunk. And so that's all I remember from that. And I remember being on lunch break near the beach when I lived in Brunswick County, and it was a bright light in the sky, about the size that a plane would be, or a star would be, or even a smaller planet. And it was moving, and I had a weird feeling about it. It just didn't feel like a plane or something. And
it moved?
Well, no, just the feeling, and then how it moved. After I was like, I wonder what that is. And it started to look like it was growing dimmer, as if it were going straight out to space. And I watched it until it slowly disappeared. And I thought, that's weird. That's suspicious. Because I don't know what else it could have been. And it wasn't a rocket. There have been rocket launches. It wasn't like that. It was just a white light that you would see flashing on a plane or from a plane or something, but it didn't behave like a plane. And I thought to myself, I wonder, was that a UFO? But it wasn't anything that I felt that was absolutely a UFO. And there's no way it wasn't. It was just kind of like a moment. So, other than that, not really any ET occurrences. I've had sleep paralysis occurrences, and I've had a couple of things with possible maybe ghosts or something, but not a lot of ET stuff. And that's probably because of the state of mind that I've been in most of my life of being afraid of ETs, and learning what I'm learning is they don't really mess with you if you don't want to be messed with.
That's true.
So maybe
The
that's
positive
why.
ones, at least. The
The
positive ones
positive
won't.
ones
Now,
at
the
least,
negative
right?
ones, though, the negative
Right.
ones are what like Christian beliefs would call like demonic
Demons.
spirits. Yeah,
Okay.
demons. Yeah, I feel like I honestly believe like they're one and the same. And those they can and they will, but you know, I don't know anyone who hasn't had some sort of spiritual, some sort of mystical, or you know, like UFO like possible sighting. Of course, we don't know 100% because, like you said, you don't know for sure because there are man-made things, you know,
Right.
that we don't know about. So some UFO sightings are from the government or from other countries' governments, you know, and then some are actual, you know, extraterrestrial. So it's like, and then you got Project Blue Beam as well, where they're just shooting up holograms, and you can like, to me, you can tell they're just holograms because they don't have substance. They are just, it looks just like shadows in the clouds, and that's kind of how I'm able to tell intuitively, but I could be wrong, you know, I'm not 100%. But yeah, that's, most people nowadays have had some sort of experience with them somehow, some way.
Well, that's so funny because even and we might, who knows, we might have to have like a small clip or something with her, with my mom, because I've had you know, my mom's like, you know, what are you into, and I tell her what I'm into, and she's curious, but she's, you know, she's got her own views on things, and she was brought up Christian, as was I, but I'd never really been that into it anyway. But she's, you know, she consider, I mean, if you would ask her, she would say she's a Christian and she believes in God. So she does like to, she thinks some of the stuff that I'm into is woo woo, which is okay. That's fine. And, but she says that she does have an experience possibly seeing some UFOs, that she's had an experience. And, I don't remember if we talked about it or not. If I was like, okay, so what happened? But she's like, well, hold on, because I've seen some weird stuff before, and I'm like, okay, so I mean, there you go. So we might have to hear her story.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, somebody at some point has, you know, mine have not. I've been taken to ships, but I have heard definitely of that happening to other people. You know, from the research that I've done. Also, I think I know like one other person who's had an experience similar to yours, Christian. I know everyone I know has at least seen what you've seen, Josie. In meditation, I had a set intention to connect to the beings that were part of my collective part of my soul. And I just kind of was in my room. I had my eyes closed and I had my hands out, and they kind of came to me. There's three. They were blue, but kind of see-through. Their faces were shaped like this, big eyes, very small nose and mouth. And they showed one was here and one was here and one was here. So they kind of appeared to me in a triangle. And so it's like, from that experience, I know that they were Syrians. I know that I'm a Syrian soul. I did the soul realignment and it aligned with each other. And I just had the inner knowing. It was just like anytime because once you look into that, your spirit guides, your collective, you know, will guide you to the information that you need to know to help you understand who you are on a soul level even deeper, right? Because it's important that we, you know, to know where you come from and originate, but it's not to override or overtake your human experience here and now, because what's most important is that we're in the present moment. We're here. We came here to be humans and experience that, you know? But it's kind of like a little subtle reminder that they're always there, and like, hey, this is a part of you. You're a part of us. We're a part of you, and we're here. So I met them that way, and it was like you experienced, Christian. It was telepathic communication. It wasn't scary. I didn't see any bodies. It was just kind of like heads, and there was also lots of bright light behind them. It was very quick, very intense. And my grandmother showed up also, which was weird. And I don't really fully understand why. Maybe she's part of the collective with them too. Because, you know, your family members are, you have soul
Your soul
contracts.
family.
Yeah, soul family, exactly. And how far that goes back, who knows? It could be millions of years. Your soul could be literally millions of years. Like, there's no way for us to know. We've come down the veil of forgetfulness. But that was my first experience, and they were just like, "Yeah, we are your collective. We're Syrians," and they showed me the triangle, and so it's like that symbol has been kind of sacred, if you will, ever since then for me. I'll get little signs, synchronicities from them in triangles showing up sometimes. And then not too long ago, I did a reading where I tapped into the collective of the Galactic Federation of Light. That was crazy. I went to the freaking moon, y'all. I went outside, meditated. I just put my feet in the ground. I got my little notebook, automatic writing. I don't go into long trance, nothing crazy. It's pretty quick. I went to the moon. I saw it was artificial. There was multiple different extraterrestrial races, species, whatever you want to call it there. It's a freaking base. The moon is not a real planet, or it's literally artificial. And there's this one being that I could see that they're all sitting at a table, and this one was female. I don't know if they really have gender, but it felt feminine. Huge gray head. I'm talking about like whoosh, with like a crown with a crystal right here, and huge eyes, very small mouth. It was very intimidating. I didn't go anywhere over there because there was another extraterrestrial that was a tall white, which you would consider a tall white. I didn't see any features. It just looked like a silhouette of a tall, light, white light. And he was just like, because I asked if I had permission to go. I was like, show me what I'm allowed to see so I can, channel the message. And I did a whole video on it. It's on my channel. Of information that I got, and he gave me a bunch of really cool information about like what they're doing to our food, about like sex trafficking and stuff like that, and it aligns, man. If you go back, my video's still there. If anyone wanted to watch it, it's not too far down, but it's a channel message from the Galactic Federation of Light. It says all that stuff, and then that stuff ended up literally happening. So like lab created meat, the movie that just came out, Sound of Freedom, like it, you know what I'm saying? So it's so crazy. So it was accurate, and it was cool, but a short, sweet, it's kind of like remote viewing, if you will, kind of like that in meditative state. And anybody, if they practice and their intentions are pure, trust me, you can do it. Anybody can do it. It's all about setting that intention, just getting in a quiet place, breathing, stilling your mind, and then just letting go of fear and letting it happen. It might take some practice, but anybody can do it. I'm a firm believer of that. It's nothing special about me, just anybody who has the will to do it can do it for sure.
Yeah, it's I believe that too. And some of the mediumship experiences that I've had didn't really start like they happened, but it was kind of like a spontaneous, can't control it kind of thing that happened. And the only time I consciously made like contact with deceased loved ones is whenever and I meditated, and then something came through and I'm like, I don't know if this is really happening, but my question to them would be like, if this is really happening, give me some information that I can pass to someone to verify that it happened. And I've had that a few times. And I even had someone telling me that someone was going to die soon in the family. A woman was going to die in the family. And they told me other information prior to that was verified. But that last part with the woman passing was like the last thing. And I was like, okay, I hope nobody, dies. I don't wish bad on anybody. But if they do, then it's a confirmation for me, I guess. So then I forget about the whole thing. And then 2 weeks later, my mom calls me. I called my uncle to tell him, and they're like, holy shit, Chris called it. They're like, oh shit. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I was like, it wasn't me. That's what he said. That's what he told me. And I brought it up.
I don't like when spirits do that with me in readings and stuff like that. When they tell me when someone's going to die, I'm like, listen. I'm like, because it's like, what are you supposed to do with that information? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't tell that person, God forbid. That's crazy.
Yeah, he didn't tell me who. Then, in my case,
yeah, and I'm just like, I have just asked them because like they'll tell me, and I'm like, look, if someone is about to pass, unless I can save them or something, like I don't want to know. So I asked them to refrain from telling me that because just like it's a lot.
Yeah, it can be.
What the hell do you do with that information? Like, am I supposed to tell them to save them, or am I supposed to just tell the family members so we can prepare? Like, what is the
my first question? my first question was like, is it someone close? And he was like, no, it's not someone
Good
close.
question.
And then you're like, oh, okay, so who is it? You're like,
Yeah, that changes everything, right?
you're like, but he didn't tell me who. He just said it was a woman in the family, gave me like a brief description of her, but nothing that I could make out. And that's what I told. I just told a couple of people that were open. You know, I told my uncles, some of my uncles, my mom, my aunt, and then when it actually happened, they were like, "Oh shit!" You know, they're like, "Oh shit, it really happened."
Maybe it was meant to happen
Yeah,
so that the people that you told can like become open and
that happens.
to
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. Yeah, maybe that was the sole purpose of it, because I do believe that there's no such thing as coincidence, and everything does happen
I
for a
believe
reason and
that.
has a purpose. So that it could have been that,
Yeah.
And then now maybe whoever you told is more open and knows that, hey, things like this that are not logical, that can seem impossible, are actually very much possible.
My uncle believes to a degree, but I don't know how much, because it's like he never ridicules me or anything like that, you know. But he's like open but quiet. Like he'll listen to you, but and then he's like, huh, okay. But after the woman had passed, he was like, yeah, just let me know if anything else happens or you get any other messages. I'm like, yeah, sure.
Wait a minute now.
Yeah. But and just to let you guys
Sorry guys.
no, it's okay. I'm gonna edit so I can cut that out. But
Okay.
we're about 12 minutes before an hour, just letting you know.
Okay.
I actually wanted to know, Amanda, where did all of this start for you? Did you grow up with, like you said, your kids know all about this? Were your parent or guardians, were they into this as well? Or is this something that you found on your own?
That's a great question. I really love when people ask me that, because obviously everyone's story is going to be different. But I also grew up as a Christian. I, from a very young age, I like the age 4, I was just like very aware of like, I'm not my body. It was very strange that I was in a body and I'm like, who would I be without this body? What am I really? Like, I didn't understand why I thought that way. And I also could always, not so much sometimes see, but absolutely sense presence, spirits around me. But it scared me shitless. Like, I was not able to sleep alone in my bed until I was like 13. I always snuck in my parents' room. I would sleep under their bed. I would have to have some sort of light or TV. So it's like, it was almost torture. And I would have dreams where I would wake up. So I feel like from a very young age, very negative spirits. And I shut it off. Like, I would wake up and I would scream and try to speak and nothing, but I would be awake. And I would not be able to tell. It was crazy. And I knew that something was doing that to me, and I did not understand it. I thought maybe I was just scared of the dark nightmares. So as I got older and became an adult, it didn't, man, like, things would just randomly happen. And I've always been interested in, always been open to, I've always known that, ghosts are present and they exist. Like, almost every house that I grew up in, ever lived in, has always been freaking haunted. Always. And so in my son, when my oldest son, when he was a baby, he was able to see them. And I knew it was present because I saw it, and we all experienced, everyone in the house experienced it. So good spirits, bad spirits, and everything in between. Now that I've kind of opened up to it, I have done research, I've done some understanding, I guess you would say, and praying, and just if you don't, it's kind of like I had to F around and find out. So, because, like, I had to just dive into all of my fears. And I really, I started with the Reiki, and then I did the tarot, and then the tarot opened me up to my mediumship. It was the tarot that did it. And I was like, oh, maybe this is why I've always had, because I thought it was normal. Well, it's not really so normal to have so many ghost experiences, like, or, you know what I'm saying? And I realized the purpose of it is not to just communicate with them, but to help them if they are ready to be helped. Like, if they're at that point, you can talk to them and See, if they're ready, you gotta tell them, because sometimes they're confused. I wouldn't necessarily say they're lost, because if they choose to stay earthbound, it is a choice. They have chosen it because they have attachments to a house, to people, to places. And I also know that when people pass, they do stay earthbound for a little while to do that, like, review of life and go and see and fixing, whatever that is. It's different for everybody. There is no one course for anyone. It's different for every single soul.
That's what I've come
So,
across in my research too.
that can be very confusing. Yeah. And it's like, and I also know that there's plenty that I don't know. I just, I don't go, ghost hunting, although I'm very interested in it, in like, but I know that I would probably have some sort of attachment if I did that. So I allow them to come to me, or if I'm coming to them, it's because, like, I've moved into a house, or I'm at a location where that spirit, needs me to call on my guides, their guides, and I say, like, a prayer. I'll go home and light a candle for them, and then I kind of let spirit do its work, because I don't do any spiritual work without my guides, without my angels, without my higher self, and in God. Although I'm not Christian, I absolutely believe in Jesus. Jesus is very present in my life. Christ consciousness, unconditional love. I do have that. So I just see it in a different light. It's, it's not, as growing up Christian, like, some things just don't add up. It's very contradicting. God is not some, like,
Do you feel
narcissistic step parent.
do you feel that Jesus was a prophet, was a man, a human man, and he was a prophet? Okay.
Yeah, I do. I do, absolutely. I believe that Jesus' soul was a light being and came with a huge purpose, that as an,
That's
like
what
an
I've come to
avatar.
understand. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like one of the
But
first
to
waves.
shift humanity,
Mhm.
to more of unconditional love, and how we can be more like him. I wouldn't say he's our Lord and Savior. He is our brother. We are to be like him. We can have the same
Yep.
gifts and abilities that he had. Is what he's trying to show us.
That's what
And
Bashar
so,
says. He says that gets
yeah, it's
misconstrued.
not, so
Be
it's
like
like
me, don't follow me.
yeah,
Right.
they killed him for the same reason they hung and burned witches.
Yeah.
And it's because they were using healing, and they used just natural magic. The magic that God gave you can be accessed. You just have to know how, be willing to how. And it's that programming. It's that conditioning to think that you're small and you need to pray on your knees and you need to beg for free. Like, no, like, what goes around comes around. Yeah, that's right. But like, the heaven and hell, that would be, so reincarnation, there's not much evidence, but there are plenty of masters, if you will, that say that Jesus taught reincarnation. The Catholic Church took that out because they don't want you to know. So
Oh, well, gosh,
be,
there's a lot of stuff that they took out and added.
the
And,
heaven and
and
hell
how many different Bibles are there of Christianity?
Yeah, exactly. So, like, that's why it's like, I don't even, although I've read the Bible, it's beautiful. There's some cool stuff in there, but it's also stuff in there I'm not a fan of. They talk about how women can't speak in church, and how it's almost like it's cool to have slaves. Like, it's just some things, like, you have to remember, it's symbolic, it's metaphoric, and it was written so long ago. The way that they spoke, the way that they used language is very different than it is today. So it's like, you gotta, unless you've been translating stuff your entire life, I'm not even listening to anybody, what they have to say about what they think, unless it's your own, unless you internalize it for your own self or whatever, and that's different. But you don't have to push that onto anybody else. That's for you and your own personal growth or whatever. So, but yeah, like, I mean, there's so many rabbit holes we can go down, y'all. It's endless. But listen, your experience with the dowsing rods, I saw it on video, and Josie was there. So that's truth, y'all. That's truth. There's
Oh my gosh, no, that was so, like, it was one thing to see it on TikTok. He was showing me this girl that does it on TikTok who talks to her grandfather. And I'm like, I was into it. I'm like, this is okay. All right. And then he's like, hey, I got him. And I was like, oh, okay. And then he has me come in from the living room into his room, and he's like, they're working. And I was like, oh, so I grabbed my phone and I started recording. And I mean, there were some moments that, I kind of teared up a little bit. And then there towards the end, I asked some questions about just like one or two questions about my deceased cat. And that was just for me. That was a little selfish thing that I just wanted to know about. And then that had me crying, and I thought it was beautiful. The whole thing, it was beautiful. And we've tried to make contact with someone since, and I don't think they're particularly chatty right now.
Yeah,
So
nothing
yeah,
nothing
so
significant so far. I mean, I've had a
Well,
couple
they
of
do move
successes, but
around,
yeah, I've had a
Yeah, I
couple
mean,
of
they're always
successes, but
around.
then yeah, not like the first
Yeah,
one. First one was like
yeah.
really strong. I was like, wow, like I was like, that part where I'm like, I swear to God, I'm not moving it, and you just see it like swing around. I was like, that's not me.
I gotta get me some of those now.
Yeah, but
Like all that stuff, the spirit box, the rim pod, all that stuff.
yeah,
Like, I don't necessarily need that in my house because I've cleansed my house of any. So there's spirits in my house, but there's spirits that know me personally, and they're like my
Mhm.
guides and stuff like that because I see them or whatever. Now, once a blue moon, stuff will come in and be nosy, but it's nothing negative. So yeah, it's pretty cool. The dowsing rods, I've heard of them. I know that they work. I've always known that they work because just like you said, sometimes it gets to moving and sometimes they don't, and that's how
Yeah.
And it is pretty normal for a spirit to come and say it's peace and then kind of go about its business. That's also normal.
Mhm.
It's a personality thing,
Yeah.
So, or it's just like I can't say the earthbound souls will be a little bit more active, being that it's not present means that your grandma, your abuela specifically
Mhm.
is free. It's not earthbound, which is a good
Yeah.
thing, which is why, yeah. So, but if it was an earthbound soul, it's more likely to communicate more often.
Mhm.
But just don't go calling out any earthbound souls. I wouldn't recommend that. I was just using that as an example.
Oh yeah, no,
But
yeah, like I always
yeah,
like
in the
ask my
past,
guides, like use the free will to ask guides. I'm like, hey, if there is contact of any kind, I want you guys to facilitate it. Essentially, so
there you go. And that is key right there to making sure that nothing negative comes in
yeah,
and that you're protected is just ask your guides, your personal team, angels and guides, to come in and work, on your behalf and take care of things that you can't see. And then just
yeah,
trust that. And you're good because it's really pointless. It's not very wise to do spiritual work without doing that. And, there's people out there that do, but, yeah, there's no harm. Will be no harm done if you do it the
right,
right way. It's all about knowing how to do it, the proper steps to take, and what not to do.
yeah,
Like a Ouija board is the absolute no. You're opening up anything and everything, and it's most likely not going to be positive because you're giving permission when you use that because you know what you're doing.
that's what I've heard.
Yeah, it's a hotline. It's a highway for whatever. And good luck trying to get rid of that. And I do property clearing and also get rid of attachments on people through soul realignment. I can do that. But there has been times where it doesn't work. It's not 100%, as much as I would, like to tell you that it works 100% proper. It doesn't always work. It does most of the time, but there's sometimes where it doesn't work. And that's crazy to me. So the only thing that I can think of is that it must have something to do, it's personal or it's karmic.
Yeah,
And that has to play itself out, you see?
yeah. And
Yeah.
I tell people too, and it goes hand in hand with the spirit guides and the ET thing. What I've come to understand in my research through near-death experiences, people channeling, people going into trance and hypnotherapy, expressing stuff. When it comes to disclosure or even spirit guides helping you or ETs intervening, there is this underlying principle that is deeply respected of free will. So it's like unless you ask, they usually will allow you to experience something even if it's negative, because there is no essentially in the universe. You're allowed to experience all kinds of things for soul growth for whatever reason, for one reason or another, even if it's not particularly pleasant. But yeah,
Yeah, because you can say no, but the soul and the higher self
yeah,
can say yes.
yeah.
So free will, yes, there's free will, but there's that but there. There is that but there, and it has everything to do with karma.
And also, I forgot to mention pre-birth planning or pre-birth agreements that you made, because sometimes people make those.
Oh yeah.
So like from the conscious human perspective, you could be like, oh, well, I didn't agree to this, but you don't know what you said prior to the lifetime. So it's just like, there's that too. I forgot to mention that. But yeah.
Yep, and that's why none of us are victims.
Yeah.
Our soul chose to come in when it came in, and the body that it came in around the people it's around.
Yeah.
And I know it's hard to believe, it's hard to swallow, it's hard to digest, but it makes sense if you really think about it. You know, it makes sense. It makes way more sense than you only live once. You only got one life to live. Like, no, it's not. We are eternal beings.
Yeah.
We're spiritual beings having a human experience. So
Yeah.
once you tap into that, there's no going back. There's no going back.
Oh yeah, it's Pandora's box once you do that. But it's more exciting, I think, after.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
It makes me think sometimes
Purpose to things.
maybe my higher self is like an asshole, or maybe it thinks that I'm stronger than I am because like, no, wait, hold on.
Your higher self knows you're stronger than what you think you are. That's what
It must.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're much stronger. We're all much stronger than what we think, than we can ever imagine.
Yeah, but we can end here unless there's anything you want to add or.
Yeah. No, that's perfect.
Okay, sweet. Well, thank you guys for watching. Yeah. We'll catch you guys on the other side.
Bye, guys.